First of all, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to join us. And what we're looking at today is some interesting subjects. I've got two really good speakers, Anushka and John, who have real experience of changing the way things are working in an organization to the benefit to reduce staff costs and actually to increase the way we use a whole disregarded group of people out there on the neurodiverse scale. So we're going to look at those two aspects. I'm going to leave them to talk and introduce themselves. I'm not going to say much more than that. The two things I would say to you, I come from a commercial background. I don't just come from a charity background. I come from a commercial background. Talkback is a leading charity working with people with learning disabilities and autism. And autism is not a disability. I want to establish that up front. But we're talking about it as a disability today because the way British law works and the way everything else works, it's included in that disabled, if you like, cohort of people. But neurodiversity is not a disability. I want to make that clear at the start. The way it's treated by officials, by government, and etc. and else, it actually fits under that category. It's the only category that does in the UK. And hopefully one day we'll get that changed as well. So let me start with no further ado. I'm really interested in you picking up stuff. There's a chat bar on the right-hand side. If you find your chat bar, if you want to ask questions, put your questions in the chat bar and I'll ask both the speakers to come back to you and reply with the answers. And if we can't get you the answers today, I promise you'll get the answers after this. Both speakers are experts in their field. Both speakers know their subjects back to front. Both teachers have achieved amazing thing in their organisations. I'm very privileged to have met the pair of them, and I'm very grateful for them and their time today. This is also done jointly with Buckinghamshire Business First. And Marina at the end is going to tell you something else that's going on as part of this whole process. So let's start. No further ado. Let me introduce two facts for you, and then we'll go from here. So let's just hit a couple of facts. If I can move the slide. Disability in the UK, and again, I've made this point, this includes neurodiversity, which is not as well measured as it could be, but actually this is a fact. As employers, we struggle sometimes to find really good employees, and yet there's this whole workforce out there that's not being tapped into. When I started over 20 years ago in the commercial world of actually looking at this subject area, and actually I've been working for 40 years, but 20 years I've just been ignoring this area. 20 years ago, I started looking at it. The average number of people with learning disabilities that were employed in the UK was 6%. And today, with all the revolutionary changes we've made and everything, the average number of people employed in the UK with learning disability is 6%. The average number of people with neurodiversity employed in the UK, according to statistics, is something in the region of 21%. And this is what I would just say to you. As you're listening to these two speakers, think about this. Spot the difference. The difference is if you have a problem and you're looking at it a certain way, neurotypicals, we can be creative thinkers. We can look at things in a different way, but someone's neurodiverse can look at the problem in a totally different way. And if you want to get an example of that, go back and find on YouTube, Channel 4, The Autistic Gardener, and how he looks at a garden in a totally different way. And we have employees who look at the problem in a totally different way and give you a fantastic solution. They will bring you different approaches. They will bring you a structured process. They like to work in a structured way. Their attendance will be excellent. I can promise you that. Their attention to detail is extreme and they're consistent in their results. And there are lots of roles in organizations. And I can quote, we can all quote famous people who are autistic and all that thing, but I can quote loads of people who are actually doing really, really great jobs in organizations when they've been given a chance. And that's what we're going to find out today. Can it make a difference to your organization? You might be a very small organization. You might be a large organization. And you might be surprised to find you probably are already employing some people with neurodiversity and you don't know it because they haven't declared it. And that's also might help you today. So let me hand over to Anushka. Anushka, you can introduce yourself. And I thank you very much for your time today. Anushka. Just need someone to take the screen down so Anushka's put her slides up. Thank you.
Your microphone is off, Anushka. Sorry.
Your toast, Mum. Toast.
Okay, thank you. I think I can hear. I think I'm here now. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jeremy, for the nice introduction. And hopefully I can continue an element of the theme that we started off on to on kind of talking about how Softcat have actually helped people in our organisations be themselves as well. So next slide, please. So I'm going talk about where at Softcat employees come first. Sorry, I feel like, am I controlling the slides now?
You have your own slides. You're in control of the slides, Anushka.
Okay, right, there we go. Brilliant, thank you. So I thought I'd start off by telling you a little bit about me first, and I'll explain why that is the case, because I'm a daughter to parents who are from Zambia and India. Have we lost the slides?
Yeah.
Let's try again.
Sorry,
Caroline, I thought you were going to manage the slides so we didn't have to come off and me share them. So, right, let's double check. Can we all see the slides and can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. So I thought I'd just share a little bit about me first and foremost, and I'll tell you why I am sharing. So I'm a daughter, I'm a sister and a granddaughter. My parents are from Zambia in India, so I, as a heritage from India. I grew up in Wolverhampton in the Midlands. I went to a Roman Catholic school, and then I went on to Oxford Brookes University to study maths and computing. I am not in a technical role at Softcat, just a caveat, my background, but I thoroughly enjoyed university, and that is where I met my husband, Andy, who's number 2 on the little slide there. So I'm a wife to Andy, who is actually Welsh by heritage, and you know, we met at university. We've been together about 25 years now, which I don't know who that's a testament to, me or him, but we're okay. I'm a mother as well, and you could probably argue that this is probably the most important role that I will play in my whole lifetime. So I've got 2 lovely daughters, Chloe and Esme, who are 13 and 9, and that's us at Universal Studios last year. And if you've not been to Disneyland or Universal, I would thoroughly recommend it. And finally, I'm a colleague. I've worked at Softcat now for 23 years. I've actually held multiple roles, and the reason why I've actually stayed at Softcat is down to the opportunities that I've been given to progress. I've been championed at Softcat. I've had a voice, and I've been able to challenge along the way. And my role here at Softcat today is Head of Employee Engagement, Diversity and Inclusion. I've looked after our mental health strategy, and I always like a bit of a side hustle, and my side hustle is that I'm a HR business partner to ICIO. I sit on the leadership team as well, so I've got a multifaceted role, which I love. The reason why I've started off by telling you this, and you might be asking, like, why have I shared all of this? Well, to me, it's been hugely important as we've grown as an organisation to create an environment where everyone can be themselves. It's really important that our employees can come to work, they don't have to mask anything about them, and they've got nothing to hide, and that they can be their true selves. And we talk a lot about, you know, bringing your whole self to work, having a sense of belonging. And that is something that as a leadership team, we're really we really back, because if we can't share who we are and what our background is, how do we expect the rest of our employees to share? I started at Softcat when Softcat was about 50 to 60 employees, and I've had the privilege of watching us grow to an organisation of 2,500 employees across multiple regions, including multinational space as well. And I'll talk to you a little bit about how we have developed. And I kind of caveat all of my kind of speaking sessions with, there is no question off the table. And I know Jeremy just said earlier that, you know, the chat box is available for you to ask whatever questions you want to ask me. And I'll be as open, as transparent as I can at the end as well. Next slide, Caroline. Oh no, I can do this, can't I? Thank you. So we this is just a little slide that I thought I'd put in here just to talk about how we do pride ourselves on having an award-winning culture. We've got what we call a 90% satisfaction rate, and a lot of this is born out of our values and the values that we have that we really hold our employees to. In my role, when it comes to diversity and inclusion, when I started this role about 6 or 7 years ago, one of the challenges I had was to kind of talk about the benefits of a diverse organisation. Now, we've always, ever since I started, have been really proud about our culture. We're really proud about how we have developed as an organisation in terms of our culture and our values. But as we started to progress as an organisation, it was really important that we were looking at what the diversity data was and what it said about our organisation. And actually, some of the work that I started to do around diversity was born out of when I came back after having my second child. I knew I didn't want any more children. 2 was plenty for me. And I looked up, knowing that I wanted to concentrate on my career again. But when I looked up, I saw a lot of white men in leadership roles. There was not a single woman and there was not a single ethnic employee who was on our leadership team. And at the time, I'll be really honest, I thought that it was totally unachievable. I thought there is no one who looks like me, so how the heck am I going to be able to take on those future roles? And our management team also was not representative. Now, some of you who might come from IT organisations will probably also realise that the IT sector is also quite a male-dominated environment, and it has taken. There has been loads and loads of steps that have been made across along the many years now to make sure that we are being a more inclusive industry as well. So when I talk about all the stuff that Softcat have done, it's really important for Softcat to also make sure we're doing our bit for our industry as well, to make sure that we can become a more diverse and inclusive industry. So some of these are the networks that Softcat have created. So we've got supporting women in business, which is actually one of the first networks that we actually launched and created. And timing as well. A year later, the government introduced the gender pay gap report, which was brilliant because it meant that data is king. We had to be transparent about what the data said, and we had to explain what the data said, and we also then had to back ourselves with what the initiatives were going to be to drive us forward. I'm really proud to say that when I actually took on the role, it was about something like 25% women, and I set an ambition to get to 35% women by 2030. As of today, we are at 36% women across our organisation, and that is down to all the hard work that our recruitment team have done in terms of changing processes, the work that we've done in terms of changing job descriptions, the training that we've delivered to hiring managers to think differently about the jobs, and also, more importantly, making sure our leadership team are truly behind all of this and they understand that they have a responsibility to make sure that we are diversifying our organisation. I will say that inclusion does come first. So, we have to make sure that we've got an inclusive organisation. Otherwise, we can employ many people from many backgrounds and they won't stay. So we have to work on inclusion. And also our management and our leadership team are also representative now of our overall gender balance. So we've got 33% women in our management team, and we have got 33% women on our leadership team as well. So that has been down to changing mindsets. You'll notice I use the word ambition. I deliberately don't use targets as a word, just purely because I kind of believe targets can often drive the wrong behaviours in terms of hiring processes. So the ambition was a collective, let's all get behind this ambition and drive this ambition forward. So that's our Supporting Women in Business network. And then we've got other networks such as the Family Network, our Ethnic Cultural Diversity Network, our Pride Network, our Faith, which is our Muslim and our Christian network, Empower and Disability and Neurodiversity Network, and our Veterans and Armed Forces. And whilst we've got many, many networks at Softcat, I always say there's something there for everybody in our organisation. When I train people up on their first few days when they join the organisation, there's a network there that anyone can join. You either join because you want to learn more you want to understand more about people who are unique and different to you, or you want to be really proactive and you want to actually get behind some of the initiatives that we're creating alongside some of these networks. But in essence, we are essentially one community as well. Move on to the next slide. I can. So I thought I'd use an example of one of our networks. Networks can be a lot of organization call them employee resource groups or business resource groups or community networks. There's you know, people can brand these networks in whatever way they want. At Softcat, we've called them our community network group. And I thought I'd give you an example of how we set up our Empowering Disability and Neurodiversity network. And I'll be really honest, when this was probably one of the latter networks we actually kicked off. Because for me, it was, I'm one of those people who likes to know as much as I can about everything. And I quickly learned that with this specific network, it is so broad that it was going to be impossible to learn everything before I launched it. And actually, I am still learning every day about something new within this network as well. So I thought I'd give you this as an example, just to talk through how we set it up. So how did we get started? Well, one of the things that we're really proud about is our employees who lead these networks. It isn't me who runs them, and we don't run it from a HR perspective. We run it as an employee-led network. And we got started by learning from a lot of the other networks in terms of how they were formed. We have 2 network leads. They are co-chairs, Phil and Millie, and they're actually both in the pictures down here on the left-hand side as well. And they have been brilliant leads along. They've shared their conditions, they've shared their challenges, but they've also celebrated everything about them so that they can inspire and lead from the front. Now, the initial challenges that we experienced was that people wanted to do things very, very quickly in a network. They kind of have a million kind of initiatives that they want to drive. And I'm a strong believer in like do less and do it really, really well, rather than having so much stuff that you want to do, which then kind of might fall apart. So the initial challenges for me was kind of setting expectations for the network around what is it that we actually want to achieve, what do we want to aim for, and how are we going to make sure that the organization can be part of our journey. And we set kind of some really simple goals, really, which was let's start sharing our experiences so that we create a safe environment. And ultimately, we want to make sure that people who are in our organisation with challenges, we want to make sure that we can improve their experience, ultimately, first and foremost. And if we don't know enough about somebody's condition, then we won't be able to improve their experience. We started off by doing a lot of education and raising awareness, and I'll show you on a couple of slides later that we've got our own internal SharePoint portal page, which has a diversity and inclusion site, and you can hone in on one of the networks. And in this case, if you hone in on the Empowering Disability and Neurodiversity Network, there are about 20 or 30 bios where people have shared their journeys, their stories, and their asks as well. Like, what is it that they need to make sure that we can be more supportive at work? And that really helps us raise awareness across the organisation. And naturally, the more people open up, the likelihood is that more others will open up about their stories and their journeys as well. And what we kind of noticed very quickly as well, that it wasn't just employees and their kind of raising awareness about their neurodivergence or their disability. It was actually about people that they care for as well. Like, so a lot of our organisation or a lot of our employees have opened up about their children as well, and actually connected with our Softcat family network and done some joint collaborative work on how to support children or people with different caring responsibilities as well. So that's really helped. for me, it was all about winning hearts and minds initially. So by raising awareness, sharing stories, we won hearts and minds. We got people inspired to learn more. My motto is always about learning about the person behind the job title. So take some time to actually appreciate and understand somebody's background behind that job title, and you'll find out something that you just didn't know about them. We wanted to celebrate uniqueness. We often can find that a lot of people will talk a little bit more about their struggles, and it can be really downbeat. And in our case, actually, it was more the opposite. It was actually, yes, we do struggle, but we also really want to celebrate who we are and how unique we are. And what this meant then was that we were able to collate data. The team initially, right from day dot, wanted to do a whole heap of data work. They wanted to collate a lot of data. And my kind of argument back at the time was, let's really get all of our organisation behind the Empowering Disability and Neurodiversity Network first for a good year. And then people are more likely to be comfortable to share their own personal information. And back in February 2023, so over a year ago now, we did do a piece of work where we collated data on our employees' disability and neurodiversity, their socioeconomic background, and their sexual orientation. We already obviously have data on gender, and we also had collated ethnic data about 5 or 6 years ago. But when it came to more personal information, we always knew that this was going to be a little bit more sensitive and a little bit more difficult. We need to handle it with care. We actually received over a 75% response rate across all of our employees, which meant that the data that we collated was really valuable. We understood that actually quite a lot of the data matched the census data as well in terms of percentages of working age population, of supporting people with neurodivergences or a physical disability, and also a mental health condition. And what it has allowed us to do now is also build that data into things like our engagement surveys. And it's actually the feedback that we get from our engagement surveys that helps us be more, I guess, create better initiatives in that unique experience that somebody might need. And I'll give an example. One is like lighting. Now, we had so much feedback from our EDN network on lighting last year that we've actually managed to change some of the lighting around some of the offices, because it actually does really affect them on a day-to-day basis. And things like the software and the hardware that they might need to use, or to help them do work more effectively when they're at work and also at home. So with that unique data that we're collating actually, and the feedback that we're getting from the network based on how we are viewing the engagement survey, we're able to see what their employee net promoter scores like, how their job satisfaction is compared to others, how they rate their training and development as well, and what additional needs that they might have to make sure that their experience at work is a positive one. And then what's next for us with this particular network is about promoting all this good stuff and actually going away and recruiting more people as well. And here's just a flash of some of the examples. So this is just a couple of snippets from our different from our SharePoint page, where you can join the network. It gives you some tips on accessibility on Microsoft Office, how to get some more inclusive training for our managers. There's lots of people who have shared different stories as well, which is really powerful. There's also some examples of people who have shared their bios and talked a little bit more about why the network particularly is important to them as well, because it's really created a safe space. So it's just a couple of examples there that I thought I'd just share, which actually we put on our screens every now and again across all of our offices as well. And these individuals and individual employees have just been so brilliant in terms of being open and honest about their challenges, and being so open and honest about what support they actually need as well, which means that we've kind of normalized everything for them as much as we can at work. Finally, I thought I'd share with you some work that we're doing with Super Ones. It's an initiative that we have done over the last few years, where we invite young students in so that they can understand what working environments can look like. So if we just go back a page, and can we just see if we can play that video, Caroline? Sorry, I can't seem to go back. Let's try and play this. Hopefully the sound comes through. There's no sound, is there?
Sorry, Anushka, we're not getting sound, no.
Okay, let's
What I will do
let's
is
just
actually,
stop that one. We can try and play that at the end, maybe.
what I'd like to do is actually put that, perhaps just send it out
I
to
can put the link
everybody.
in.
We'll put the
Yep,
link
I can put the link in.
in the chat bar and we'll go from there.
Awesome. That was my final couple of minutes to showcase some work that we have done. But I will just pause this now so that, and I'll put that link in the chat box so you can view that at your own leisure. Back to you, Jeremy.
Thank you. Let me ask you a couple of questions. And again,
Okay.
other people, if you'd like to post questions in the chat bar. So thank you, Anushka. It was a really interesting thing. You know, from an employer viewpoint, I'm going to ask some very. So when you've got these networks, one of the things, you know, employers fear is how much time does this all take? How much, you know, these people are meeting, so who's doing the work? You know, that's a natural, if you like, a boss's view. Sometimes it's like,
Yeah.
oh gosh, what's happening? Where everyone's sitting in these networks, no one's actually doing any work anymore. Tell us how it works in practical terms. I saw the structure, how you got it started and everything else. How much time do people spend on it? How does it work?
Yeah, I mean, I do have to often tell, particularly some of our leads and people who are within the network, which go to kind of not obviously put lots of time and effort into it, but at the same time, they are here to work as well. So this is actually on top of the day job, essentially. Their managers will give them time to actually be supportive of them driving the network forward. So that is always a positive. Going back to what I said about doing less and doing it well is really important. I'm a massive fan of making sure that any initiatives that people are doing within the networks supports one of my overall diversity and inclusion pillars. And I've got 4 pillars essentially. One is about recruitment and attraction. So what are we doing to attract the right talent and unique talent from different community groups or different locations, so that we're not just kind of going to the same talent pool all the time. Otherwise we'll never diversify our organization. The other one is about training, development and retention. So what are we doing in terms of retaining our talent, making sure that they've got a great employee experience and we're developing them in the best way possible. The third one, which is where most of the networks fit in, is that inclusion piece. So what are we doing about raising awareness? What are we doing to improve people's mindsets and help us all improve our knowledge about other people's experience? And then the final one is about the partnerships that we build with external agencies, external organizations, people that we can kind of connect the dots with, so we're not reinventing the wheel all the time. So how can we share experiences? How can we work with our customers, our partners, our industry to share kind of the things that we've done and the initiatives that we've created, because so we don't all have to be so time consumed in kind of reinventing stuff. And you are right, like it can be quite time consuming. Like for every employee I say, please don't join all 7 networks because you'll never get any work done. So don't join all 7, but join one where you feel either you can be proactive in, or you can find yourself in, or you want to learn a little bit more about. But all the panel sessions, all the different campaigns that we run across the course of a year is pushed out to all of our employees anyway. So people can dip in and out, even if they don't want to physically join a network. But I do have to kind of rein people back quite a lot, because, you know, for the greater good, everyone wants to do more. Everyone's so passionate, but we do have to rein it in to say, look, you can't do everything all in one go.
Okay, thank you. Now I'm just going to let you take yourself off mute if anyone wants to ask a question. This slide keeps moving for some strange reason, but so I'll take back control of the slides now, Anushka, thanks. But if there's anybody who wants to ask a question, please just take yourself off mute and ask the question, and I'll just let you ask Anushka, or I'll ask another couple of questions we've had put into us already. Anybody got any questions? Please just take yourself off mute and ask the question. Okay, let me ask another one then. targets, you said targets drive the wrong behaviors, and I let me understand what you mean by that. So targets, as business people over the years, we've all been driven by targets, and the government sends in this or that. We've got this target, that target, which basically we just trying to do the day to day is overwhelming sometimes. Some of the government targets, then we get the other targets from other authorities, and they spend more time doing targets than we actually do doing work. It feels like sometimes. Why do you say targets drives the wrong behaviors?
Yeah, great question. And I get asked this a lot because obviously there are other organisations, and even as a FTSE 250, we get targeted by the Parker Review and other kind of investor targets and stuff like that. But for me, the reason why I say it drives the wrong behaviour is because what I didn't want to do was to say, right, our commercial team have a headcount of 10 people for next financial year, and out of those 10 people, 5 of them have to be women, or 5 of them have to be ethnic employees, or 5 of them have to be this. What that would mean is that hiring manager then goes, well, I've been told to hire this person. I've been told to hire this person with this gender or this sexual orientation or this ethnicity. Whereas what I wanted to do, and I think it has paid off, is when I talked earlier about winning hearts and minds and creating a growth mindset, it was definitely a top-down, bottom-up approach for me. The top-down approach was making sure our leadership team understood why diverse organisations can be and will be more commercially effective. Now, it was hard because Softcat on paper, like 6-7 years ago, and we still are, double-digit growth, and growing in the right direction, recruiting 400 or 500 people each financial year. Now, we could continue doing the same thing, like going to the same colleges, the same universities. We're really fortunate. The demographic that we tend to recruit, our business model is very much recruiting apprentices and early in career. So it was easier to kind of look at changing some of those processes. So whilst I was working with the top and the leadership team to talk about how effective we could be moving forward and be more representative of the customers that we're working with. From a recruitment perspective, I was working with the recruitment team and going, right, where can we tweak some of the processes? Yes, you hire great talent. I'm not negating that, but I want you to think differently about how you are recruiting that talent. So are we working with schools from lower socioeconomic background, or are we just working with our local school in Marlow, which quite frankly we're in an affluent area in Marlow, and the majority of those students are actually from white backgrounds, but actually from lower socioeconomic backgrounds. What are we doing? Are we doing our bit as an organisation to give back, do more for the economy? And the answer was no. So it was small tweaks at the recruitment stages, along with, like I said, changing job descriptions so that the language was easy to understand. It wasn't over technical, and actually going out to schools, myth busting, making sure that we could attract different talent from different demographics was really important. And it's kind of second nature for our recruitment team now. We measure the success. We measure what adverts we're putting out there in terms of the diversity data. Who are we attracting? Who's getting through to first, second, final stage as well? And it's worked without me setting specific target. So the ambition I set was a gender-based target, a gender-based ambition. And I've also set the same for ethnicity, which is we want to make sure that our ethnicity data is essentially the same as the national data in terms of working age population. And we want to make sure our management team and our leadership team are representative. Now, be really honest, we've got a lot of work to do from a management and leadership perspective. Am I confident that we'll get there though? Well, yes, because we know that we've actually made it work effectively through mentoring programs, our leadership development programs, our management programs, and so forth, in terms of making sure that we are getting the right talent into those programs to help them be future successes for future senior roles.
Thank you. Anushka, 2 questions. I'm going to frame it one question. Just short, sharp answers. How many staff have Softcat got?
Just over 2,500. And
the staff retention rates? Do you know?
Our attrition rate's quite low at the moment. It's at 12. When I say low, it's 12%.
Okay.
Considering we recruit quite young talent.
And how long would an average average length of time employees stay at Softcat?
I'd probably say anything between, I mean, like we've got somebody hitting their 30-year anniversary tomorrow.
Yeah.
So anything from 30 years all the way down to a couple of years, I'd say. Our business model is quite a sales environment. So if people don't love sales, and it's a really, really hard job, is that we've recruited that talent. We will always work on internal mobility and look at where else we can place that talent.
Okay, it's lovely. Anushka, thank you on behalf of everybody. That was a real
You're
good
welcome.
insight, a really different way of approaching things. And you know, some people will say, well, that applies for a big business. I can prove time and time again. It also applies to any business in the UK, and that's what makes the difference. You get a better, diverse workforce, and you get a more motivated workforce. And a 12% retention in the IT industry is unheard of. I will tell you that now. And congratulations. Thank you, Anushka.
Thank you
for your
for having
time.
me.
Thank you. We're going to hand on to John Warbank, the Assistant Director of Peter from Fairhive. John, I am going to be your slide operator, so good luck with that.
Thanks, Jay. Appreciate it. Yeah, morning, everybody. Hope you're all okay. Yeah, thanks, Jay, obviously, for the earlier introduction as well. Anushka, that was such a great presentation. And so many of your themes really resonated with me and our business, particularly your passion about culture, and also how you encourage your employees to bring their full selves to work. And that's exactly why I'm really fortunate to work in Fairhive, because I can certainly do that, and I do bring my full self to work. So yeah, my name's John. I'm the Assistant Director of People at Fairhive, and I think this is a really important topic. So let me just take you through what I'll cover. So there's 4 key elements of my talk. So why is inclusion so important to me? Why do I care? Why I'm passionate about it? And then how did we really start building that success? So our EDI success really started with our EDI culture. And I'm just going to share with you how this all started back in 2019. We were awarded Disability Confident Leader status, and I was so proud when we got that. I'm just going to share how we're making a difference as a leader in Buckinghamshire. And then lastly, just how we're making a difference for the autistic population. So just to start with, why do I care, and why is it so important to me? And this is a bit of a personal story, similar to how Anushka described it. Now, daily life for me can be quite challenging. So I have a disability, and I was 16 years old, and I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. Now, I've had type 1 diabetes for 31 years, so I feel like a proper pincushion. I've done 100,000 insulin injections, and I've done 150,000 blood tests just to keep alive. Now, type 1 diabetes is a autoimmune condition. So my own body, thanks body, just attacked my pancreas when I was 16 years old. There's no cure to type 1, and I've got a lifetime of being that pincushion, taking thousands of insulin injections just to keep alive. And I live with diabetes every minute of every day. So just before I did the presentation, I did a blood test just to make sure my levels were okay. You don't get a day off from type 1 diabetes. And I'm always thinking mathematical questions. So, you know, how much insulin have I had? What am I eating next? What my carbohydrates are going to be? Have I done any exercise? And the main issue with diabetes is that the dartboard, you're trying to hit this continual dartboard target, but that dartboard's always moving. So it's a very fluid beast, and it's very challenging. All that is important because it just shows that disability is slightly more challenging. So we really need to support people with disabilities, to support them about being in work and looking after their mental health and their well-being. Now, why is all this so key? I think there's a real compelling moral case for diversity and inclusion in the workplace. We've got to ensure people are treated equally, with dignity, and have their fair share of resources. And that's just the right thing to do. It's the ethical thing to do. Everybody matters. We all should have equal opportunity to develop, progress, be rewarded, and be recognised at work. And I think there's a really strong business case for that. So there's so much research out there that people with disabilities are just as dependable, just as productive as people without disabilities. And similar to Softcat, the Softcat at 12% is phenomenal. We've also got really low employee turnover. And our turnover at the moment is 13.66%. The average turnover in housing is 22% in our sector, and upper quartile performance in our sector is 17.5. Now, I know from various research that I've done, any employee who leaves a company could cost £38,000. And that includes the time to recruit, to train new employees. Often we might use a recruitment agency. And if we were running at 22% turnover, we actually would have had another 28 leavers in Fairhive for last year. And that 28 leavers would actually have cost us over £1 million. I know, and employees really want to work for good, ethical companies. There are 898,000 vacancies currently in the UK, and we're living in such a candidate-led market. So employing people with disability is both the right thing morally to do, and it also supports your business. And I really think it will really enhance your reputation and brand. And there's also a great engagement stat. People who are valued for who they are, so valued for who they are 43% more effective at work. And that's from Forbes. And if your colleagues can bring all of themselves to work, they'll say thank you by being so much more productive. So how did this all start? And this really started with our EDI culture. Now, Jay shared a slide. There are 16 million people in the UK. And we need to try and support with people's employability skills. But it's not just about that. One of the real saddest stats I recently read was from the Office of National Statistics. And they said that the proportion of people with disabilities who also feel lonely, often or always, is 400% higher than for people without a disability. So over 15% of people with disability feel lonely, often or always, which is over 2.5 million people. So we've got a lot to do. So how did this all start within Fairhive? And this was regarding our culture in 2019. So for seasoned HR professionals like me, we love a model about culture and about employee engagement. Now, for me, the simpler, the better. And that's why I love this model. This has got 4 enablers. So strategic narrative, engaging managers, employee voice, and integrity. Now, in our business, Fairhive has already got such a strong purpose. Many of us work here for that strong purpose and that social purpose. We love achieving things for the greater good in Fairhive. We've got a strong mission, we've got a good purpose, and we've got excellent values. But then it's important that your managers, our managers, are bringing that in strategic and narrative alive and turn it into day-to-day operational reality. Now, when we asked our employees, when we created our new strategy, we said about, with your voice, what inspires you? What motivates you? And then the last part around integrity is bringing it alive. So just make sure that your EDI strategy isn't just words on a page. We've got to all walk the talk. We've got to keep our EDI promises. So back in 2019, we started the creation of our 5-year strategic vision, bigger, better, bolder, and beyond. And we asked our colleagues, what do you really care about? What are you passionate about? And there were 2 really big things that came out. First of all, the environment. And the environment is so important for all of us. And I read recently that February just gone was the hottest February for 2 million years. And we've got so much we need to do to focus on the environment. And secondly, EDI, equality, diversity, inclusion. So they're the real big 2 themes that our employees are really caring about. And then how these 4 enablers fit into EDI, well, it is a strategic priority. It's on our bigger, better, bolder, and beyond strategy. On managers, we're so fortunate to have so many EDI leadership role models within Fairhive. Employee voice, many of our employees really care about EDI, and I'm really privileged and honoured that in Fairhive, our employees feel that they can share their stories openly with us. And integrity, EDI in Fairhive is not a policy that just sits in a drawer and you've got to blow the cobwebs off. We believe in it. It inspires us, and we really want to make a difference. Next slide, please, Shane. So how you really make that alive is we've got to achieve some stuff. And this is really where Disability Confident came in. So we achieved Disability Confident Leader last year, and we're so proud about that. We're 3 levels: committed, employer, and leader. And it's made a real difference for us. One of the key ways that this is making a difference is about how we recruit. And we actually have a commitment that we interview all candidates who have a declared disability if they meet the minimum requirements of the role application. So we've decided if a candidate with a disability scores 50% or more of the shortlisting score, they'll be invited for an interview. And that makes such a difference. So the average Fairhive interview success is 19%. So anybody who applies, 19% of applicants achieve an interview. But if you've got a declared disability, it increases to 38%. So nearly 4 out of 10 applicants with a disability go to the interview stage, and that really highlights our effectiveness of our commitment to support any colleague with a disability. Now, we recently interviewed and also have appointed a new IT colleague with autism. And then to support him through the recruitment journey, we actually sent him the interview questions in advance, because a number of people with autism like a bit more time before responding and might not like getting questions out of the blue. So this really supports, and we can make a real difference with these reasonable adjustments. You've gone through quite a few slides, Jay. I don't know if you do. If I can maybe share the slide about that, the photos about the EDI culture. Oh, one forward, a couple forward, please, Jay. One more. That's one. So we really believe in walking the talk. But this has taken us a number of years. So as well as making a difference on disability, we're also a great performer on gender, similar to Softcat. We've got a much smaller gender pay gap of 5% compared to the average at 14.3 in the UK. And we've also got gender parity at a most senior leadership level. We've got more female managers than male managers, and that's brilliant. And it just makes me proud to want to work in Fairhive, that we've got a living and breathing EDI culture. So I just want to share now a few top tips around how we're making a difference as a disciplined and confident leader. So the key thing, everybody just needs to be involved. And this goes back to the enabler, organizational integrity. You can't pay lip service to EDI. It's not something you can fix with a sticking plaster. It's about how do you get buy-in across your whole business. People need to care about it. How do you inspire people? And again, it starts top down, but also bottom up. How you really encourage your board, how you encourage your leadership team to believe in this. And we actually held a 2-hour board session on EDI last year. It was really eye-opening, really thought-provoking and inspiring. Now, we're very fortunate. We've got executive sponsorship on EDI, which is brilliant, in Julie. And we've also got a board sponsor as well. So we've got EDI buy-in across the whole of our business. And this quote is from our chief executive, Matthew. And you can say, you know, he says, we are totally committed to this, which is brilliant. So we're very fortunate we've had that buy-in across the whole business. Next slide, please. And it's also on our strategic agenda. So as part of Bigger, Better, Bolder and Beyond, you know, it needs to be up there with all your key strategic priorities. You know, your disability or EDI can't just be on a HR plan somewhere that you take out once a year. How do you really bring up a clear strategy with clear accountabilities and a clear plan of action? Now, we've got a lot more still to do. So at the moment, our EDI data is sitting at 80%, which is still really encouraging. We want to try and move that on to 100%. So there's always more that we can do. And we want to create our first ethnic pay gap report, which we'll do this year. So it is a living and breathing thing, which is great. It really shows we want to try and achieve so much and then move on as well. Nextly, who are your positive role models? Now, this is really important. How do you create that culture of openness in your business? You will have people in your business with a disability. Find them, give them permission to share their stories, how you encourage people to share, how you encourage psychological safety in your business. Now, I often talk to my colleagues about bringing their full selves to work, their authentic self. I do it. I can't block out diabetes. So I think it's really helpful to talk about it openly. And I shared a video about diabetes in our business a few months ago, and about how it links into World Diabetes Day. And on our right, this is our Assistant Director of Housing, Hela, and she talks about her struggles with mental health as well. So it's really, who are your role models, and share their stories, and then that will then give people in your businesses to give that permission so they share theirs as well. And the employee reactions to these stories have been fabulous. It really opens the floor to others. It connects people together. So you can see one of our colleagues, Mickey, he actually opened up to our whole business that he also has type 1 diabetes on the back of my video. Leaders have a part to play, but really on a bottom up, really encourage all of your people, all of your employees, because they can all be role models and make a difference. And then again, similar to Softcat, we create safe spaces for EDI discussions. We have quarterly inclusion network meetings. And it could be a leader like myself sharing their story. And we discuss topics on disability, such as diabetes, multiple sclerosis, deaf awareness, autism. We've shared stories about dementia, but we've also hosted sessions on topics that are not disability related, like the menopause and transgender. And we've had fantastic feedback on these topics. So the three main purposes of these topics is they provide a safe space for discussion about EDI, they raise awareness about issues in Fairhive and provide a source of support. And the feedback is exceptional. Somebody actually said the discussion was open and honest, and the fact the employees were sharing their stories was really inspirational. Another key thing is about asking your employees to share their data. because the employee data is the foundation stone to understand what's going well and what you can focus on. It's about collecting aggregated data, and it really creates a detailed window into the EDI makeup of your business. And a few things we've done, we've got data role models, so managers encouraging others to try and share their data. We've also used our inclusion networks to try and support, and it's really reassuring people that data is confidential. And as I said earlier, we're currently at 80% and really want to crack on now to 100%. Again, in HR, we all love a process. We love an operating model. And actually, this is really good for us, because actually we've got some certain elements to try and achieve, and it really rewards us, and we celebrate it when we achieve those milestones. For example, how do reasonable adjustments work in your businesses? Now, no matter what your size of your business, we can all just have yes as a default response for reasonable adjustments. As I said at the start, life with a disability is slightly harder than for people without. So if we just had a default response of yes, it would make life a lot easier. And I can share our process. I don't know if any of you have got a process around this sort of stuff, but if you don't, reach out to Jay or Caroline. I can certainly share our processes with them and they can forward it on. So the last part of my tour is around how we are making a difference specifically for the autistic population. So we've got a wonderful long-term partnership with Talkback, and I'm so inspired by the amazing work that Talkback achieved. Talkback is such a force for good, particularly as Jay said, less than 1 in 5 of the autistic population are employed. Now, we've partnered with Talkback for a number of years. Now, in this time, Talkback has raised awareness about autism in Fairhive, and we're so lucky to hear firsthand from Nicola. And she just shared what daily life is like with autism, and she shared a really inspiring session. We've also created a supported internship for Thomas, and he works in our IT team with Rick for a whole academic year. And Thomas gained invaluable IT experience, and he strengthened his CV. We ran interview skills for Thomas, all increasing his employability potential. And then we had Marcus, and Marcus joined our caretaking team early this year, and he worked 1 day a week for 5 weeks. And he learned new skills, building bird boxes and bug houses in our community. And he loved his time with us. You can see he really enjoyed working in Fairhive, on a quote on the slide. And most recently, we've now just had Arjun. Now, Arjun's just completed a 2-month placement in Fairhive, working 3 days a week. And our team was so impressed with Arjun's work ethic and his capabilities over the course of his experience with us. So Arjun's actually going to be starting in May, a 3-month paid position. And that's going to be a pilot scheme in Fairhive for future Talkback participants again, which is just fantastic. All this stuff is just fantastic. And I'm really privileged to have Rick in our team really leading it. And it's around who are those role models, because when you find them, wow, they can really create some amazing stuff. So just a summary, how do you bring this alive in your businesses? So it's, the EDI narrative, inspires people. I shared at the Waterside Theatre, the 2 big things that inspires people in our business are the environment. We're all worried about the environment. And secondly, EDI. You all know somebody, whether your relatives, your friends, everybody's impacted by this. So we can really inspire and make a difference when we come together. It's about raising awareness and educating. Secondly, EDI, it can't just be a policy in a drawer that never comes out. It's got to be living and breathing. It's got to be really resonating with people. So it's about giving your colleagues a voice. And I really think actions speak louder than words. So for us, that's why I'm so proud about becoming a disability confident leader. But give your colleagues actions, they can inspire. If you've got a HR toolkit, ask people with a disability to check your HR toolkits. Does it work for them? So, use people, give people a voice, as it said earlier on with the enablers, because it's going to have a huge impact on your reputation and brand. And then lastly, just how do you make EDI a cause? So in your business, that it really connects with people care about it. And I think that really is about sharing stories, because when you really can see that people's lives are enriched and bettered, and you see the hope on people's faces, because maybe they've sent off 250 CVs with no response, and then you just find work for them. Wow. I know I'm so lucky to work, and I've worked for 31 years, and I'm so lucky, but a lot of people don't get that chance. And for autism, it's so difficult, and the employability stats are so low. So we can really make a difference, and then we really can give people hope, because hope breeds hope and success breeds success. And that's why I think if we can inspire with this, we can really make a difference together.
Thank you, John. That's fantastic. You and Nushka are forces for good, the pair of you. So thank you. Question: does Fair Hive offer working interviews for applicants with a disability as an alternative to sending them the questions in advance of the interview, or do you do both?
I think what maybe we actually use working interviews and skill tests already. And I think if an applicant with a disability asked a question about whether we can amend things and it was reasonable, we're very committed. We're a reasonable employer. And for me, nothing's off the table, Jay. And obviously, Jay, you and I have before about working on in passports for businesses around how they can educate. And I think there's more to do on this. But I think just having an interview that you're concerned about, the more we can do to prepare, I think that'll be really, really good.
Yeah. And how much do you think, there's a lot of people listening in, and there's a lot of people, we both know there's a lot of people registered as organizations, and I won't name them or shame them or anyway, so don't panic anybody if you're on the line, but there's a lot of people registered as business disability confident employers at the lower level, if you like, but actually have never taken anyone on, or never actually really, it's a nice tick in the HR box because it's sitting on their website, but actually they've never acted on it, it's actually, I have to say, it's about 80% of bucks, which is actually registered, but actually not done anything formally. What would you say to them to encourage them? Because these are really good employees, and Arjun, we know really well, Marcus, they're really good employees. They're not special cases. They're really good employees, full stop, aren't they?
They're amazing. And I think there's quite a few elements to that. So I really believe that this is the right thing to do. So it's not just from a business point of view, from a personal point of view, I think it's the right thing to do. And I think that really inspires people. But if you want to come at it from a purely business case perspective, the numbers speak to themselves. So Softgat's turnover is 12%. Our turnover is 13.66%. I know in our sector runs at 22. So from a purely business case point of view, I think the results really speak for themselves. But also, your brand will be enhanced, your reputation will be enhanced, how people view your business will be enhanced. And I think it will really encourage more loyalty from employees, and people will stay with you for longer. And as we know from the Forbes stat, people are 43% more engaged when they can bring their full selves to work and they feel valued for being who they are. Being valued for who they are. As part of me being who I am, I have a disability. I'm very open about it, but it just makes me, if I think of the resilience I've shown over 31 years of stabbing myself 100,000 times with an injection device, it's not easy and it's so frustrating. But actually, people with disabilities show remarkable resilience, and I think my resilience is really, really good. So actually, people like me with a disability can make a phenomenal difference, and they'll be huge, brilliant colleagues in your business. So give them a chance.
Fantastic. I'm going to ask you and Anushka this question. This comes from the floor. How would you recommend encouraging confidence amongst managers in managing those with disabilities or health conditions? And I have sympathy with that, because some managers have never approached this subject and feel quite scared. And I mean that in the wrong sense, it's quite difficult, because how do I manage if this person, they have a perception that this person might kick off or might do this or might do that. So we hear that quite often. But how would you recommend encouraging confidence amongst managers in managing those with disabilities or health conditions? John, I'll start with you, and then Anushka, I'll move to you.
I think there's quite a few elements for that. I think, first of all, it's about encouraging trust-centered relationships. So that within any company, the most important relationship is between the employee and the manager. So if that psychological safety is there, the employee will open up. And if they open up, because they're going to have tough days, they're going to have times where resilience is challenged. So if that's there, first of all, is the employee opening up? I think secondly, the employee themselves, with that trust-centered relationship, will probably share a lot around how they want to be supported at work. And then the manager asks for help. So within our business, we've got lovely relationships, working partnerships with a number of disability-centered charities. And as I said, we've had inclusion network meetings to really educate. So I've learned so much about Alzheimer's. I've learned so much about dementia, about death awareness, about autism. And I think we can really educate. But there's also, occupational health. So I know as a HR professional, we can also ask for help or reach out to the particular charity. And again, I'm sure, Jay, your team, if we want to try and support somebody even more with autism, I'll just reach out to you. And I've actually done that quite recently, haven't we? We talked about recruitment. Actually, you shared some brilliant examples around how we can do things differently. EDI is a living and breathing culture. Nobody's got all the answers. Just agree, we all don't have all the answers. So you might have 90%, but then ask your employees, ask experts out there, and then share around how we can make a difference.
Thank you, John. Great answer. Anushka, can you add from your perspective?
Yeah,
about-
I echo everything that John has just said, and without recapping on what he has said, I think that trust element is really important. Going back to what John just said about not knowing everything, you know, just because I have diversity and inclusion in my job title doesn't mean I know everything either. So I think kind of creating that culture where we say to managers that we don't expect you to know everything, and we expect you to make some mistakes along the line and be vulnerable about it. But I think where they can actually role model great behaviours by creating that safe environment ultimately across their team, first and foremost, is really, really important. I mean, like there's a whole heaps of training available, but even then you're still not going to be absolutely perfect at everything. So I think for me, for managers, it's kind of like go and learn and talk to your teams about what you have learned, therefore then creating kind of a safe environment. It's showing really good role model behaviors. You know, like look at our policies, look at the training that's available. Like we can signpost our managers to things that are available, and the people and the campaigns and the panel sessions. But I think there's a responsibility on everybody, irrespective of whether in a manager role or not. There's a responsibility on all of us to go away and have that growth mindset, so that we can be capable of asking the right questions, rather than trying to fix people and trying to kind of you know, kind of say the right thing. It's almost like, how do you create open questions so that you can say, what is it that you're going to need to help you at work? It's really simple.
Great. No, it is a really, and again, you know, we're happy to help with any of that with any of you. We are a charity that works in this particular field. But I do come from a commercial background, and my team are very, very up in this thing. And I just want to make an offer to any organisation who's actually taken the time to give us your time this morning, that if you want some autism insights training, we have an excellent trainer. We do it online, and she has autism, and she will go you through and give you an insight into what is autism, what is it about, how does it work. So if you want that, we would offer it for free. Anybody on this call, you can just approach us because you've given time, and we'd like to give something back to you as well. And again, it's only an hour on a Zoom call with her and another one of my colleagues, just to give you some background. What is autism? And then how do you break down some of these barriers? I'm going to ask you both a final question, because I'm inspired by the pair of you, and Anushka and John, thank you. It's really, I hope everybody else feels really inspired. And I'd ask you just, you know, when you walk away from these calls, we all do these calls, don't we? And then we all leave, and then we carry on doing what we were doing normally, you know, for the rest of the day. And I'll just ask you to sort of, please, just 5 minutes, cup of tea, sit down, cup of coffee, think of 3 things you think you could take away from John, 3 things from Anushka that you actually could take away from today that you think, do you know what, we need to make a difference. And you might think, oh, we're too small to do this. That's why you're not attracting new employees. And every time I get an employer says, we're not getting new employees, and I say, how many do you want? And what sort of culture have you got? What sort of organization do you want to be? And that's the questions I think John and Anushka have posed us today. So my final thing is, before we think, well, I'm going to make you joint prime ministers for the day, okay? Because you can't do a lot worse job than the lot that are already in, or the next lot who are coming in, or it doesn't matter which politics you follow. If you were prime minister in this particular area, I'll start with you this time, Anushka. What would you change in this area? If you were changing something, what would you change in this area?
In this area in particular, just related, I guess, overall to kind of EDI generally, I think a lot of this boils down for me personally to like schooling and fairer schooling and more opportunity to kind of have a fair learning experience, so that actually those people are more confident getting jobs, don't feel like they're on the back foot when it comes to looking at what employers can offer. I think employers can do their bit as long as we are passionate about this and we can drive the right behaviours. But I think kind of like a lot of this really for me stems down to kind of basic schooling, I guess. You know, like why is it that people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds or people from disability backgrounds, like why is it that they are actually affected and they're more worse off? Why is the experience not a great one?
Thank you. Good point.
That's kind of a big broad topic, by the way.
It's a great one. No, it's a really powerful one. It does start back there. Thank you. John, what are you going to change?
So when we became a disability confident leader, we share how many people with disability we employ in Fairhive. So we actually employ 28 employees, including me, who have a disability. So of our colleagues who actually share their data, that's 12% representation. From everybody, it's nearly 10%. And what a difference they make. So what I would change if I was Prime Minister is that I'd probably encourage all businesses to share their representation on disability publicly. Because at the moment, we do it with gender pay gap. So since we started sharing our gender pay gap reports every year, actually we've really changed, and actually we've gone from I think about 13%, we're now at 5%. So it's really, really encouraging the right way, and lots of businesses are really doing the right thing. But I think we should really make it mandatory to share representation about disability, and also probably ethnic pay gap as well. At the moment that's voluntary, so as well as being gender being mandatory, they should make ethnic pay gap reporting mandatory, particularly for businesses of a certain size. And I think all businesses should share their proportion of people with disability on some sort of public forum.
And I think, just to back John's comment there, is if you've got the data, it doesn't matter how small you are. I know from a gender pay gap perspective, it's mandatory if you're an organisation over 250 employees, and we've got our ethnicity data, and we've been doing our ethnic pay gap report alongside gender pay gap report now for the last 4 years as well. But if you've got the data, the modelling is all available, so irrespective of your size, I think you can still do all of that and produce some kind of data or some kind of internal report irrespective of size.
Brilliant. John, Anushka, thank you for your time. Excellent presentations, excellent thinking. Please do take away. Marina, I'm going to hand over to you. This is Marina from Business First, Buckingham. Tell us about yourself and what's going to happen as a result of today, where we're going next.
Hello there, everybody. I think I need to click on the screen. There we go. Hi there. Amazing morning and really inspirational. Anushka, your point on educating school children in this area is a really great segue into the work that my team are doing. But first, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the work of Buckinghamshire Business First. With a membership of over 14,000 businesses, Buckinghamshire Business First supports a business-led community that looks out for the best interests in both new ventures and established enterprises. We know that when businesses talk to each other, the magic happens in terms of support, establishing economies of scale, networking, access to funding opportunities, strategic advice, and more. Businesses can learn from each other and grow their companies. BBF can keep companies up to date with their e-newsletters, our informative website, and all the support which is available on there. BBF don't just provide support, but provide a conduit where you can work together best. Oh, I've gone forward too much, sorry. There we go. So as well as providing the usual support for businesses, as in one-to-one business advice, workshops, networking events, masterclasses, peer learning and mentoring, if you join one of our programs, the evidence tells us that you can see an increase in turnover of 77% and an increase in productivity of 62%. In addition, do you know what your carbon footprint is? If not, a member of the team can help you with this. Since 2009, we've supported over 3,600 businesses with environmental interventions, helping to save over 14,000 tonnes of CO2 equivalent per year, distributing over £8 million direct to businesses, whilst helping hundreds of businesses begin their transition to net zero. We produce monthly reports aggregating business data to central government to inform them about trends in our area to inform future funding streams. Oops, sorry. In addition to this, do you have a business plan? Have you discussed it? Have you shared it? Well, to go along with that, you might also have a people plan. This will help you to inform your staff and inform what you want from your staff and where you want to go with your business. It will help with recruitment and training needs. We can help you with this as well. So moving on from the work from Buckinghamshire Business First, I just wanted to inform you about some work that we're doing with young people. So this is the Buck Skills Hub, Buckinghamshire Skills Hub. There we go. Rolls on, one too many every time. There we go. So on the 11th of June, we're going to be holding an event at Stoke Mandeville Stadium. It's an experiential careers event aimed at inspiring young people with special educational needs and disabilities or those facing barriers. You can book a stand. There's still a bit of time to book those. We held this event last year. It was really successful, but it's really about getting that voice out to young people, and that's really what Anushka was saying earlier about that link and telling young people what's out there for them now, so that they can approach the workplace more confidently and know that there are opportunities for them. So I do hope you'll join us on the 11th of June. We're working hard to inspire businesses about the great benefits of an inclusive workforce and to make the most of the diverse talent pool, a lot like has been said this morning already. Studies show that companies that are more inclusive and diverse tend to be more innovative and profitable, and we've certainly heard from two of those this morning. Schemes such as the Armed Forces Covenant and Disability Confident Employer Programme, both of which Buckinghamshire Business First is signed up to, offer practical support with businesses that want to open their potential talent pool as wide as possible. At the Confident Future Skills Show, we'll also be running a disability confidence workshop for businesses. So if you'd like to join us for lunch on that day, that's the 11th of June at 12 o'clock, please do join us for some lunch and some further discussion on this topic. Just get in touch with me to book a ticket, or I'll put it in the chat actually, if that's okay. So you've got some, next slide, you've got some numbers there. On again.
So I recommend you search Buckinghamshire Business First and go to bbf.uk.com. You find all this information on there. Please do sign up for the 11th of June. It'll be very interesting to employers as well as young people just to see what's going on. Do make contact with Marina directly. Thank you, Marina. And we'll make sure these numbers and everything else are sent out to them. And actually, just been a comment in the chat bar. We've just had our carbon footprint calculate done with BBF Net Zero, and they were absolutely fantastic. We recommend them to anyone. So thank you, Marina. There's a nice recommendation from someone there.
Brilliant. Thank you, Phil. I've just got some information in the chat.
Thank you, and we'll send it out by email as well. Thank you to everybody. This is 10:45 exactly. This is time to finish. I want to thank thank you, Marina, for just introducing there. 11th of June, please look at your diary. Please make the time, because it's really, really fascinating to see. Anushka and John are inspirational. Please honour their presentations and what they've done, and look at your business, see what you can do, think about it. And then if you need help around diversity inclusion, get a hold of Bucks Business First and see how they can help you with the planning of it, the thinking of it, the challenging thinking that they'll bring to that occasion. I'd like to thank you all for this. Thank you to Caroline and Tisha who put all this together for me. And thank you everyone for taking your time today. It's been really a pleasure. Again, if you want to have some training in Autism Insights training, it's absolutely free. We'll just run a session for employers that have been on here, give you an example, give you an idea, and you can ask any questions you like of people with lived experience who actually are our employees as well, and are exceptionally good employees, just like John's and Anushka's. Thank you all for your time, and thank you very much for taking interest in this subject area. Thank you. Good afternoon and have a nice day.